A few days ago, Bethesda released one of the largest Creation Club updates for Fallout 4. I covered the Tunnel Snakes Rule adventure in yesterday's video, and today we'll cover everything else. These creations do focus on settlement building, but even if you're not into settlements, hang with me. There's a lot of stuff here that might be for you, including power armor skins, new outfits, and even a horde of brand new consumable items that could revolutionize your gameplay. I cover a lot of creations in this video, and I know not all of them will be interesting to all of you, so I've provided handy timestamps to each different creation I cover in the description below, so you can jump to the one you are most interested in. So hitch your caboose to the Oxhorn train. This is Oxhorn's Mod Muster. By far and away, the largest addition in the latest Creation Club update is the Coffee and Donuts Workshop Pack by Fading Signal. Bring some delicious fun to the wasteland with the Slocum's Joe Coffee and Donuts Workshop Pack, featuring over 75 new items, including new architecture, signs, lights, decorations, and new animated food crafting stations, allowing you to make your favorite pre-war donut and coffee flavors. Assign vendors to run your shop while you're away. Includes 2 new power armor paint jobs, created by Rob Vogel, also known as Fading Signal. This creation is a whopping 600 credits. That's around $6. Is it worth it? Well, let's explore everything that comes with it to find out. When we arrive in the Commonwealth, we begin the quest, Slocum's Joe. Find the Slocum's Joe delivery. Our Pip-Boy picks up the location of the delivery near Malden Center, in the ruins of the Slocum's Joe corporate headquarters. We explored this building when I did my video on Slocum's Joe. Had I known that the Creation Club was going to release all of this new content about Slocum's Joe, I probably would have saved my video, but if you're interested, you can watch the canonical lore about Slocum's Joe by clicking here. Upon arrival, we need to pass through the ruins and take the stairs up to the 2nd floor. We can then open the southern door to the Slocum's Joe offices. Inside, if we have not cleared this already, we find 3 raiders we need to kill. Once they are dead, we can explore, and immediately we see a bunch of new stuff. In the northeastern corner of the offices, we find a brand new machine called a coffee station. From here, we can craft dozens of new coffee and tea items. We'll get back to this in a minute. Heading into the next room, we see some clothing on a shelf, a Slocum's Joe visor, and a Slocum's Joe uniform. Next to this, we find the Slocum's Joe delivery crate lying on the ground. Inside, we find a Slocum's Joe franchise kit. We have permanently unlocked the Slocum's Joe Donuts and Coffee Workshop. Start building your delicious empire today. After we loot this magazine, we can now access the new Slocum's Joe items from our settlement workshop. In this crate are a bunch of raw materials we'll need to craft our donuts, including purified water, the brand new donut mix, and the brand new Slocum's Joe espresso tin. We can also get 4 sets of the Slocum's Joe uniform and visor, and 2 sets of the Slocum's Joe t-shirt and jeans. There's more donut mix on the ground next to a big pink donut box that we can't interact with. The Slocum's Joe uniform has 0 stats, except for 1 charisma. Clearly, this is not designed to be a combat uniform. The visor is also pretty barren, granting only 1 perception. And it looks exactly as we would expect. We get a pink visor and a pink Slocum's Joe shirt, as if we've just joined the Slocum's Joe family. Though if you look at the shoes, we see a bunch of pink paste. Looks like the employee who had worn this costume before had stepped in a bunch of frosting. That's a nice little touch. The Slocum's Joe t-shirt and jeans likewise have no damage stats, but they do grant us +1 to luck. This looks really similar to the Nuka World t-shirt and jeans that we found from the Nuka World DLC, except it's bright pink with the Slocum's Joe logo on it. If we haven't already, we can loot the nearby desk for the Notice to Slocum's Joe and 4 Slocum's Joe Buzz Bites, which I covered on my Slocum's Joe video, and unlock an advanced locked safe for the Slocum's Joe Buzz Bites recipe. After looting 1 Slocum's Joe espresso tin by the coffee maker, we can head out the door and travel to our settlement of choice. When we pop open our settlement build menu, if we head to the far right, we find a category for Creation Club creations. We find a brand new category here called Slocum's Joe. Inside, we find a completely new build set. We find 4 new floors. There's a concrete foundation version and a simple square wooden tile version. Each of these floors is a ceramic tile of a different color: black, yellow, pink, and blue. The build menu also comes with some brand new brick walls. This brick wall appears to be a gray stucco with some festive Slocum's Joe stripes going down the middle. There's another one that's blue stucco with some pink tile work going down the middle. And here's my favorite, a completely blank brick wall. This will be useful even outside of building a donut shop. I love it when a tile set can be versatile. The next one is a white brick with pink stucco on the back, and then a plain white brick wall. We also find a doorway version of each of these walls. I'm gonna go ahead and put down a brick one. There's only one roof tile. It's a flat roof. On the inside of the roof, we see these cardboard or plaster roof tiles, and on top, we see some cracked tar. And finally, we find a window version of each of these walls. The window is a nice big window, perfect for showing off your product. And we even see glass in the window. Next, we'll go over some signs. There are 2 lit signs that come with this creation. Both say Slocum's Joe, and one has a donut holding some coffee. I'm gonna go ahead and power this building by placing a pylon on top and connecting it to the electricity, and then heading on inside. Ooh, take a look at that. They glow a beautiful pink color. I love it. Next, we get 2 diner booths. One is a worn, dirty tan color, and the other is a worn, dirty pink color. And they do snap together. I love the thought that went into this, making it easy to stack these in just the right way in our donut shop. This pack comes with 1 brand new ceiling light, the Slocum's Joe ceiling light. If we have a pylon nearby, it'll automatically light up. There are 2 static versions of these signs that don't light up, and we find 2 street side sandwich boards. One is a billboard showing off the menu, and the other is a chalkboard showing off the menu. We find 2 new cloth canopies that snap to the outside of the wall, a blank wall and a wall with a door. One is pink striped, the other white striped. Both of them say donuts, pastries, espresso. Next, we find countertops. It's a reskinned version of the diner counters we're used to, with the Slocum's Joe color and logo on top, and these do snap together, making it easy to make a nice front counter for the register. We find 2 new Slocum's Joe crates. These are just like the yellow wooden crates we've seen in the game, only one is reskinned pink Slocum's Joe and the other reskinned tan. Both work as functional containers. It's here I want to point out that many of the items we find in this Slocum's Joe section of our build menu are also found scattered around the other menus of our workshop. And there is a strange bug or quirk. If we were in the Slocum's Joe category when placing items in our settlement, and then we exit workshop mode and then re-enter workshop mode, as is typical, the settlement menu brings us back to the last item we interacted with. However, if it's an item that's found both in the Slocum's Joe category and, say as in this case, the furniture category, it can sometimes pop us into the furniture category. So even though I never navigated here, I'm in furniture containers, where we find the Slocum's Joe crates. Here I am in Creation Club Slocum's Joe, exit the workshop, re-enter, and I'm in furniture containers. This can get a little confusing and a little frustrating because we'll often have to back out of these menus to return to the Slocum's Joe category to continue building. I'm pretty confident this is not just an issue for me due to some mod conflict, because I've seen people online complaining about it, and there are even some user-made mods on the Nexus that claim to fix this issue. But it's just a minor quibble. I'm not going to worry about it too much. We next find some settlement decorations. These are donut boxes. We find 2, a pink one and a tan one. They're just decorations. We can't interact with them like containers, and they're not consumables. So they're just there to look nice. And we find a donut display counter. I'm going to go ahead and scrap this one I placed earlier and instead place the pastry display case. It also snaps to the other counter. It's a lit display case, meaning if we place it near a power radiator, the lights inside the case will light up. Next up, we find 3 Slocum's Joe donut statues. Great for rooftop or roadside advertising, a pink frosting sprinkle, a plain, and a powdered donut. Next up is doors. We have 2 versions. Both of them are glass doors, but one is a traditional static door, and the other is a door that's programmed to automatically close. And check it out, we open it, and it closes on its own. What a neat touch. There are 2 new big menus. I suppose these are supposed to go on the wall inside behind the counter, but I'm just going to put them out here for now. One is backlit and illuminated. It has a bunch of pictures on it, and the other is a chalkboard, like something we'd see in our neighborhood coffee shop. And it comes with 3 new posters. All 3 of these are horizontal posters, which are carbon copies of the Slocum's Joe billboards we've already seen in the game. Great for decorating the inside. There's a Slocum's Joe pastry cooling rack as a decoration item. We can't interact with it, it just looks nice. This is where they put the donuts to cool right after making them. And finally, we find a new shop in the food section. A Slocum's Joe counter. I'm gonna go ahead and scrap this one and replace it with the new countertop. We can then assign a settler to this, and he'll walk on over and use it as a shop. We can dress him up in the Slocum's Joe uniform. I couldn't get him to actually sell me anything, but I'm confident that this is my own fault. I have a lot of settlement mods that are really messing things up on this game save, and I've seen videos of this vendor fully functional, so I know that this works. This is just my own glitch. We get 2 new crafting stations, the coffee station and the donut fryer. Between these 2 stations, we can craft 41 new consumables, 16 new drinks, 23 new donuts, and 2 other items that are components for crafting those items. This is a staggering number of new consumables. To put it in perspective, in the base game of Fallout 4 alone, there are only 172 consumable items: food, drink, and chems. Far Harbor only added 39 new consumable items, and Nuka World added 77 new consumables, but that counts every flavor of Nuka-Cola and its ice-cold version. This could change the way people play the game. I've seen character builds built around consumables like chems or alcohol. Imagine the kind of character you could build by using consumables like these donuts, coffee, and tea to cover things you would otherwise get perks for. This would allow you to get other perks earlier in the game to potentially make your character much more powerful at early levels. I can't wait to see builds that come out to take advantage of these new consumables. Now, in order to craft many of these recipes, we need to gather the ingredients. Thankfully, we found all of the ingredients if we completely looted the Slocum's Joe offices at the headquarters. However, we don't loot enough to make every single donut. Thankfully, Fading Signal thought of this. You can find a franchise ingredients pack at each of the Slocum's Joe franchise locations in the game. If you head to Lexington and you visit the one that's really a front for the DIA, we find a coffee station against the southern wall. If we loot behind the counter, we can loot more Slocum's Joe espresso tins. And then if we head east into the employees only back area, we find a big Slocum's Joe delivery crate on the top of the shelf. Inside we find more donut mix and coffee tins, as well as more Slocum's Joe clothing. We find 2 packages of donut mix on a shelf and another donut fryer. They didn't place anything in the basement, probably because they didn't want to conflict with the Tradecraft quest. Next, if we head to Monsignor Plaza, we can clear the outside and then race up to the top floor. We find a raider using a new coffee station, and heading behind the counter, we can loot 3 packages of donut mix, more coffee tins and espresso tins, and even more tins right next to another Slocum's Joe delivery crate, which includes more tins and more clothing. Here we also find a donut fryer. So even if you're not into settlement building, you can still take advantage of these new consumable items. The final Slocum's Joe franchise is at the General Atomics Galleria. Heading to the Galleria and entering the first building to the right, we find the donut fryer outside on the patio and the coffee station against the wall by the door. Heading behind the counter where we find Bean, we discover the Slocum's Joe delivery crate on the bottom of the shelf. And of course, here we can loot more tins. We also find one of the new donuts we can craft sitting on the counter. This is the classic sweet roll. Whoa. What was that? Did that sweet roll just make a guttural chanting sound when I picked it up? Let's try that again. Am I imagining this? Each time it sounds a little different. Let's try it someplace a little bit more quiet. Is this an inside joke that I just don't get? Is it a Skyrim reference? In what piece of pop culture do we find a classic sweet roll in relation to, I don't know, a barbarian, a cult? I don't get it. And this is the only confectionery we can craft that has this unique sound effect. If we loot any of the others, it just sounds like we're looting squishy donuts. I don't have an answer for you. It's just weird. But what about after we loot all of those franchise locations? Well, many of these crafting components have been added to container level lists. To experiment with this, I traveled to the Super Duper Mart and just started looting until I found some of these ingredients. I found donut mix in a trash can, more donut mix in another trash can, and that's all I found from looting the Super Duper Mart. I think it's unlikely we'll find these new ingredients as static placements throughout the world, except for in the places we just explored, the places that make sense, like a Slocum's Joe, and we're unlikely to find these in safes, chests, cash registers, and first aid boxes. My bet is we're more likely to find these in trash cans, desks, shelving cabinets, ovens, and refrigerators. I never did find any Brahmin milk. I don't know if it has been added to the level lists or not, so I'm not sure how one would go about getting some. I thought that perhaps if we had a Brahmin farm, we could produce some over time, so I went to one of my settlements that had a whole bunch of Brahmin. We don't find any new option to milk a Brahmin, and after waiting 5 days, I never found any of the milk appear in my workshop. I even tried killing some of the Brahmin to see if it dropped off of their bodies, but it didn't. So I'm confused about this one. I'm not sure where we find the milk. Maybe we find it in the same way we find the donut mix, and I just got unlucky. At any rate, the Brahmin milk is a consumable in its own right, healing 150 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 1 rad. In addition to finding the donut mix, we can craft it at the donut fryer. To craft 1 donut mix requires 2 razor grain and 1 sugar bombs. As well as being an ingredient, we can consume donut mix. It simply heals 67 HP over time at the cost of 1 rad. Bear in mind that I'm reading these bonuses straight from my game, so the base bonuses for each of these items may be a bit lower in your game if you don't have all of the same perks that I do. I have not had time to look into the game code to see what these bonuses would look like without my perks. And one final note, the stats we get from all of the coffee, tea, and donuts we can craft from these 2 stations stacks. They don't overwrite each other. This is exceptionally powerful, making a Slocum's Joe donut build very viable. All of these consumables require the following new scrap items as well, with few exceptions. In addition to the donut mix and the Brahmin milk, we'll need either clean or dirty Slocum's Joe coffee tins, and the brand new with this creation, Slocum's Joe espresso tin. First is the Boston-style coffee. This requires 1 Brahmin milk, 1 coffee tin, and 1 purified water. This heals 90 HP and 120 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and it grants plus 20 to carry weight for 20 minutes. It comes in a brand new, unique Slocum's Joe ceramic coffee mug, and this one has a beautiful golden crema on top. Next, the cappuccino requires 1 Brahmin milk, 1 purified water, and 1 Slocum's Joe espresso tin. It heals 90 HP and 120 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and grants us plus 1 endurance for 20 minutes. And it looks exactly like the last one. Next up, the coffee martini costs 1 coffee tin, 1 purified water, and 1 vodka. It heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and grants us plus 25 to maximum health and plus 1 to strength for 4 minutes. Notice that the coffee looks significantly darker than the last 2. Next is the plain coffee. This just requires 1 coffee tin and 1 purified water. This heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, but it has no special bonuses. Like the martini, it just looks like black coffee. Next is the double espresso. This requires 1 purified water and 1 Slocum's Joe espresso tin. It heals 90 HP and 60 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and like the the dark coffee before it, it has no other bonuses. The espresso requires 1 purified water and 1 Slocum's Joe espresso tin, and heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads. Again, like the last two, this has no additional bonus. The fresh coffee requires 1 clean coffee tin and 1 purified water. It heals 30 HP and 10 AP with no additional bonuses. And next is the Irish coffee. This requires 1 coffee tin, 1 purified water, and 1 whiskey. The Irish coffee heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, but it grants +2 to strength for 4 minutes. I see a lot of coffee drinking in the future for melee characters. Next up is the Jamaican coffee, requiring 1 coffee tin, 1 purified water, and 1 rum. This heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, but it grants +1 to agility and +1 to strength for 4 minutes. Then we have the Kentucky coffee, which requires 1 purified water, 1 coffee tin, and 1 bourbon. This heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and it grants +1 endurance and 1 strength for 4 minutes. Next is Over the Moon. This requires 1 purified water, 1 coffee tin, and 1 Bobrov's Best Moonshine. It heals 90 HP and 30 AP at the cost of 2 rads, and grants +25 to maximum health, +1 to charisma, and +1 to strength for 5 minutes. And the final coffee recipe is the Quantum Caffeinator. This requires 1 Slocum's Joe espresso tin, 1 purified water, and 1 Nuka-Cola Quantum. It restores a whopping 1,800 HP and 100 AP at the cost of 2 rads. Goodness, who needs a stim pack? The liquid also has a unique blue tint. Check that out. Nice and quantum-y. But we're not done. We still have 4 teas to explore. First up is the Ash Blossom Tea. This requires 2 Ash Blossom and 1 purified water. It heals 30 HP with no red penalty, and it grants us a bonus of 10 AP and +2% experience gain for 15 minutes. Strangely enough, the tea looks exactly like an espresso. You'd think it would be a little lighter. Next, we have the Bloodleaf Tea. This requires 2 Bloodleaf and 1 purified water. It heals 30 HP and grants us +1 to intelligence with a 2% experience gain for 15 minutes. Next is the Hubflower Tea. This costs 2 Hubflower, 1 purified water, and it heals 30 HP, but it also grants +1 to charisma and +2 experience gain for 15 minutes. And finally, there is the Mutefruit Leaf Tea, which requires 2 Mutefruit and 1 purified water. This heals 30 HP, but gives us +1 to strength and grants us a +2% experience gain for the next 15 minutes. Remember, these all stack, so if you drink every tea, that's a +8% experience gain over the span of 15 minutes. Next up are the donuts. We gotta craft a whole bunch of this donut mix first. First up is the apple-filled donut. This requires 1 Dandy Boy apples, 1 donut mix, and 1 purified water. It heals 150 HP and grants us +65 poison resistance for 20 minutes. And it looks like a jelly-filled donut should. Oh man, after reviewing this creation, I'm gonna be craving donuts. Next is the Atomic Orange Donut. This requires 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. It heals 150 HP and grants +15 energy resist for 20 minutes. Next is the Blueberry Blast Donut. This requires 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, heals 150 HP, and increases radiation resistance for 20 minutes. Next is the Boston Cream Donut, requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. It heals 150 HP and grants +1 to endurance for 20 minutes. Next, we have the Chocolate Bar Donut, requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. This heals 150 HP and grants +1 strength for 10 minutes. Next is the Chocolate Glazed Donut, requiring 1 donut mix, 1 purified water, healing 150 HP, and also granting +1 strength for 10 minutes. So those two have the exact same bonus, interestingly. But they are both chocolate, maybe it's a chocolate thing. Next up is the Classic Glazed Donut, requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. This heals 150 HP, but also grants us +15 to our maximum health for 20 minutes. Next up is that Classic Sweet Roll, requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. It heals 150 HP and grants +5 melee damage and +5 action points for 20 minutes. Okay, so maybe it does have something to do with a barbarian, which is why we hear that barbarian grunt when we pick it up. Is there some Grognak the Barbarian reference here that I don't know about? Was the classic sweet roll Grognak the Barbarian's favorite donut? Next up is Deezer's Lemon Cake Donut. Oh, this is great. Finally, something that requires Deezer's lemonade as an ingredient. It requires 1 Deezer's lemonade, 1 donut mix, and 1 purified water. It heals 200 HP and grants plus 20 energy resistance for 30 minutes. Oh man, this is what I want. I want a nice lemon donut right now. Next is the Fudge Fusion Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants plus 1 to perception for 20 minutes. Then comes the Majestic Maple Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants us a small health regen for 2 hours. Next is the Maple Bar Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP while granting plus 1 to agility for 10 minutes. Then there's the Mutefruit Filled Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix, 1 mutefruit, and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants plus 5 to melee damage for 20 minutes. Strangely enough, this one does not make a distinctive grunting noise when we pick it up. Next is the Old Glory Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants plus 1 to charisma for 20 minutes. Then we've got the Pink Sprinkle Bar Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP, and like the Old Glory before it, grants plus 1 to charisma for 20 minutes. There is also a Pink Sprinkle Donut, which is exactly like the last one, requiring 1 donut mix, 1 purified water, healing 150 HP, and granting plus 1 to charisma for 20 minutes, only it's a circle shape instead of a bar. Then there's the Powdered Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants plus 1 to endurance for 20 minutes. Next up is the Power Pistachio Donut. Ooh, it does not sound good to me. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. Where exactly do they get the pistachio? It heals 150 HP and increases our radiation resistance by 15 for 20 minutes. Then there's the Pumpkin Spice Donut. It requires 1 donut mix, 1 gourd, 1 purified water, and that you wear Ugg boots. It heals 200 HP and increases radiation resistance by 15 for 40 minutes. Next is the Quantum Crunch Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix, 1 Nuka-Cola Quantum, and 1 purified water. It heals a whopping 450 HP while granting 15 energy resistance for 20 minutes. And like the coffee drink, this donut has a distinctive quantum blue icing. Next is the Rainbow Donut. Requiring 1 donut mix and 1 purified water, it heals 150 HP and grants plus 65% poison resistance for 20 minutes. Holy cow! 65% poison resistance? That can come in handy. Next is the Sizzlin' Strawberry Donut. It requires 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. It heals a whopping 450 HP and grants us a plus 2 times sneak attack multiplier for 5 minutes. I'm shocked that this only requires 1 donut mix and 1 purified water. The HP it heals alone is way better than any of the other donuts, and yet the requirements are pretty minimal. Plus that sneak attack multiplier is a great bonus. And finally, the Tarberry Filled Donut, requiring 1 donut mix, 1 purified water, and 1 Tarberry. This heals 150 HP and grants plus 5 action points for 20 minutes. And with that, we have crafted every new consumable item. Remember, again, these all stack. The sneak attack multipliers, all of the strength bonuses, all of the plus to experience gained bonuses, they all stack. One might think that this could potentially be really overpowered, but we can console ourselves with the knowledge that many of these components are pretty rare, especially on the coffee side of things, requiring Brahmin milk, which we still don't know how we obtain, and all of those coffee tins to craft even 1 cup. Aside from using console commands, the likelihood of having every beverage and every donut on hand and being able to use them before every battle is pretty slim. So in all likelihood, players are going to have to pick and choose between each of these options and use them in specific situations. To round off the Slocum's Joe creation, we've got to talk about the 2 new power armors that come with it. New, for each suit of vanilla power armor in the game, we find the Slocum's Joe Pink Paint. When all pieces of the suit are painted, it grants an increased charisma bonus. This is a gorgeous power armor paint. It's a bit garish. It is bright pink, and it stands out. But check out those sprinkles all over the place. It's a very clever and well-made paint job. I found only one quality control issue, and that's that we find some of the pink paint on the lamps for the T60, the T45, and the T51 helmets. It's just a minor quibble, not the end of the world, but I had to point it out. It is a quality control issue. It probably won't bother most people. The Slocum's Joe pack also comes with the Slocum's Joe tan paint job. This paint scheme increases agility with all pieces painted. I like this one a lot. I think I like it even better than the pink one. The tan base is unique. We don't see it on any suits except for maybe the tan camouflage. And we see the Slocum's Joe donut mascot right on the front, which of course makes sense. We already learned from the Far Harbor and Nuka World DLCs that brands commonly advertised their products on Power Armor. In those DLCs we found Nuka-Cola, Vim, Sugar Bombs, even Abraxo Cleaner paint schemes. The major difference, however, is that all of those paint schemes were only for the T51 suit of Power Armor, which again makes sense in the lore of the game, given that the T51 suit was the pinnacle of Power Armor technology before the bombs dropped. However, we can put the Slocum's Joe paint on all 4 suits. This wouldn't make sense in the lore of the game if we found these suits in the world with the paint already on them, but I suppose the Soul Survivor could have learned this pattern and then put it on any of the suits they wanted. But if that's the case, after looting the Nuka World, Vim, Abraxo Cleaner, and Sugar Bomb suits from Far Harbor and Nuka World, the Soul Survivor should have also been able to take those T51 designs and refit them for the other suits, so I'm not exactly sure why those are only available for the T51, but these are available for all 4. Like the pink suit, the tan suit does have a bit of a quality control issue, with more tan paint on the T45, T51, and T60 lamps. But other than that, both of these paint schemes are pretty doggone gorgeous. Well, we've covered every detail about the Slocum's Joe Workshop Pack, but that's not all that was available with the latest Creation Club update. We also find a new Arcade Workshop Pack. Build your own arcade with custom upright arcade cabinets for each holotape game, including Red Menace, Atomic Command, Pitfall, Grognak the Barbarian and the Ruby Ruins, Zeta Invaders, and Automatron. Also features new lighting, posters, and flooring options. This new workshop pack costs 300 credits, or about $3. Is it worth it? Well, let's find out. There is no quest associated with the Arcade Workshop Pack, unlike Tunnel Snake's Rule and Slocum's Joe. Instead, after purchasing, downloading, and installing the creation, we find a new section in the Creation Club category called Arcade Cabinets. We find a bunch of stuff here. We'll start by talking about the brand new floors. Like with Slocum's Joe, we can build our own arcade. This tile set is comprised of 3 new carpeted floors, both wooden tiles and concrete foundations. The carpeted floors are blue, red, and some sort of greenish retro square looking thing. And they are filthy. There is mud and gunk and gum and all sorts of stuff staining these carpeted floors. But of course, for anyone who grew up in the late 80s and early 90s, this kind of flooring was very common in arcades, and we're used to the sickly, grubby, disgusting floors. This should give us a nice nostalgia flashback. There are 2 new lamp options. They look like the same retro lamps we are used to, only they have a red and green lampshade. As long as we place them anywhere near electricity, they will work. And the most important thing are the arcade cabinets. Each of these arcade cabinets comes in 3 colors. This Atomic Command one, for example, comes in red, black, and white. Unlike the lamps and wall-mounted signs, we have to wire these directly to a power source. So using our pass-through wall conduit from the Contraptions Workshop, we can push it through the wall, power it to a nearby pylon, place a junction on top, and then connect the junction to one of the consoles. And we see that simply by powering one up, all of them receive power. That's because on the very back of the units, we find that there are power conduits attached at the very back that snap together. So the power passes from one to the others, which is a great little feature. These work just like the Pip-Boy games we're used to. To be clear, these are not new games. These games already existed in the world as holotapes that we can find all over the world and then play on our Pip-Boy. The benefit to this pack is that the picture is a little clearer. We don't have exactly the same flickering and scanline issue that we find on the Pip-Boy. And the CRTs have unique, nostalgic arcade features like cutscenes and high scores. There are 6 arcades in total: Atomic Command, Automatron, Grognak, Pipfall, Red Menace, and Zeta Invaders. It is quite a sight powering them all up and having them each make their own unique noise. It reminds me of my youth, hanging out at the arcades with my friends in the early 90s. We find 2 new stool options, a red and green stool that we can put in front of our new arcade machines, and there's some new posters, some square wall art, an Automatron poster with 2 vault dwellers fighting a bunch of monsters, a Grognak poster with Grognak the Barbarian slicing off the head of a walking skeleton, a Pipfall poster with our hero avoiding the crocodiles, and a Zeta Invaders poster with a bunch of aliens destroying a tank. One of the coolest unique things about this pack are the new projection lights. It's best if we use these in a dark spot, and if we project the light against a solid wall. These hero lights will project an image from one of the games, and the image against the wall will get larger and bigger the closer to or farther away we move it in relation to the wall. There are 3 projected lights: Pipfall, which has the Pip-Boy character in an Indiana Jones hat doing his thing; Red Menace, which has a spooky commie ghost; and Zeta Invaders, which has a bunch of creepy aliens. That is the Arcade Workshop pack. We'll round things off by talking about a few more skins that are available with the latest Creation Club update. There's a brand new Aquatic Camo paint job for Power Armor. This aquatic-themed paint job is perfect for any Seaside Assault. At the moment, it's completely free. So if you want it, head on over to the Creation Club and snag it while you can. I've talked about my qualms with camouflage in the past, so I'm not going to repeat them here. So instead, I'll talk about its execution, and it looks pretty great. With all pieces painted, we see the bonus improves detection. We find the paint scheme available for each vanilla Power Armor suit, and it looks great. The edges are weathered, it's got scratches in some places, as it should, and I didn't see any glaring quality control issues. The lamps on all of the helmets look fine. A great companion to this is a brand new Pip-Boy skin, which at the moment is also 100% off. It's completely free, so snag the Aquatic Camo skin for your Pip-Boy while you can. We apply it to our Pip-Boy using an armor workbench just like we do all other skins, and it looks pretty great. We see all of the gunk and rust on the Pip-Boy that we typically would. It just has a nice aqua camouflage paint scheme. Now before we end, I want to talk about a few things that I haven't talked about yet. After I published my last video on the previous Creation Club updates, Bethesda released a few smaller minor updates that weren't large enough to warrant their own video. So I'm going to go ahead and cover them here. One of which was the white Power Armor paint job. Like the others, it works on every suit of vanilla Power Armor, and with all pieces painted, we get an intelligence bonus. And it looks pretty great, perfect for an Institute playthrough, or for someone who just likes a nice clean-looking white suit of Power Armor. Now I know what you're saying Oxhorn, wait a minute, we already had this. Didn't the winterized coating give us white Power Armor? And you are right, but it's different. First of all, the winterized coating only gives us white Power Armor for the T-51, T-45, and T-60 suits, as you can see here. And it looks different. The winterized Power Armor has brownish, dark grime all over it. This, I think, is because the winterized coating was used on Power Armor that had seen action on the Anchorage front. They were painted white to camouflage with the snow, so likely we see a bunch of gunk and dirt and rust that had built up after extensive use in battle. As you can see, the white scheme that comes with this creation is much cleaner. We still see a little bit of wear and tear, but it's not nearly as dark and grimy as the winterized suit. Also, the Institute paint scheme for the X-01 is very different from the white paint scheme we get with this creation. The X-01 suit for the Institute has a bunch of Institute markings on it, and it's a bit cleaner. This one is nice and worn. A great companion to this is the white Pip-Boy paint scheme. We apply it like the last one, and it's exactly as we would expect. I have a few quality control issues with it. For example, take a look at the yellow text on the dial. All of the labels are hard to read against this very light background, and the filth and rust and grime and dirt really stands out. I mean, I normally like seeing wear and tear on clothing and items, but on this white Pip-Boy, it really looks grody. So I think I'll stick with the chrome for my Institute character. Bethesda also released a bunch of weapon skins that I hadn't covered yet, so I'll cover them briefly here, including the Army, Adam Katz Gunners, and Vault-Tec scheme, and the faction bundles, with weapon skins for the Brotherhood of Steel, Institute, Railroad, and Minutemen. Now, in my last video on the Creation Club, I complained that in order to get the weapon skins to work, I had to deactivate all my mods. At the time, I got many helpful comments from people who told me that the conflicting mod is called the Armor and Weapons Keyword Framework mod, which is a very popular mod that I did have installed. However, in my gameplay, even after deactivating this mod and installing patches that are supposed to fix this issue, I was still unable to apply any of the weapon skins to my weapons. Now, I do have over 200 mods installed, so it's very likely that I installed a mod a long time ago that people might not use very often, which is why other people haven't experienced this issue, and that I have been unable to detect. So in order to get these skins to work, I again had to disable all of my mods. But I want to emphasize that this is not everyone's experience. Most people, even those who use mods, are still going to be able to use these weapon skins. We apply the weapon skins in exactly the same way, by activating a nearby workbench and choosing from among our installed weapon skins. These are very well made, but I have to admit that weapon skins are not something that I would probably purchase for my own enjoyment. I don't know why, but I like the idea of unique weapons, but not necessarily weapons that have been painted. I don't know of many people who paint their weapons, their real weapons in the real world, though I suppose people have been painting all sorts of pinups and cartoons on tanks and planes for as long as we can remember, so this may be realistic. It's just not something that I'm terribly interested in. And that said, the quality is great. The Minuteman skin has a nice gray-blue color, with the Minuteman logo found in all the right places. The Minuteman one looks great on a missile launcher, though I'm curious about the author's choice to use the old world flag colors at the very end, the red, white, and blue. I always imagined the Minutemen as not necessarily reforming America, but instead trying to reforge civilization. I imagine the world that they're trying to create is a new world, not that they're trying to recreate the old one. So the use of American colors here seems a bit out of place. The Adam Katz skin has red and orange flames with black and white checkers and the Adam Katz logo. The military skin gives the weapon an olive drab color with the pre-war American military logo on it. The Institute skin gives the weapon a nice scratched gray, red, and white color scheme with the orange Mankind Redefined logo on top. My least favorite, I think, is the Brotherhood of Steel skin. It consists of a gray background with a kinda light-colored orangish logo on top. It's really minimalist, which might appeal to many people. I just think it's hard to see the logo against this dark gray. The Vault-Tec skin is as colorful as we should expect, blue and yellow with the Vault-Tec logo on top, and the Railroad skin is really unique. It has a scratched brown paint with various combinations of the Railroad logo and burning candles. I think we see some artistic liberty taken there. I especially like the Railroad paint scheme for the minigun. Though I don't quite understand the rays of sunshine we see here. The whole Railroad thing is supposed to be stealthy and subtle, yet with all of these burning candles and rays of sunshine, they sure are calling attention to themselves. And the Gunners, oh man, this Gunner scheme is amazing. I went ahead and put it on a Gatling gun so we can see all of this stuff. It's got a dark forest green base, and it's really badly worn with scratches everywhere. We see white tick marks where the Gunners have done kills. We see the words Gunners Rule painted all over, and of course a myriad of their Gunner skulls on every part of this surface. The quality is astounding. Not something I would buy for my own personal satisfaction, but for those who really enjoy customizing their weapons, these are great options. Whoo-wee. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is complete and total coverage of the latest Creation Club update. What are your thoughts on the creations that we found with this update? Does anything really stand out to you? Is it compelling? Are you itching to craft your own Slocum's Joe donut shop? Were you inspired to use any of these coffee donuts and tea as consumables with your character build? And what about the power armor paint schemes? Would you sport any of these in everyday combat? Probably not if you were sneaking, because these paint schemes really stand out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of topics spanning all of the games. I focus on lore mostly, but I do cover mods and Creation Club content. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss what next comes out with the Creation Club, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I have some new shirts in the shop, folks. Lawbringer. That's right, if you have the Lawbringer perk and you render an enemy into ash, you can find a finger resting on top. I figured I would celebrate that fact with the shirt, as well as with its companion, Tap That Ash. Or maybe you don't like any of the text I've provided and you just want the image. If so, I've got a version with just the image. You can find all of my shirts by clicking on the link to my shop in the description below or by clicking here. I take Sundays off, so I'm not going to have a video for you tomorrow, but never fear, I will be back to work on Monday, which means I'll have a brand new video for you Tuesday morning. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you Tuesday morning, bright and early, with a brand new video.